Cool. Hello everyone, my name is Sam. I am one of the co-founders of HiP, and I'm going to try and explain what HiP is in 4, maybe 5 minutes. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so let's look at how you finance properties right now. So here's Tim. He wants to buy a house. He needs £1 million to buy his house, and he looks around and he works out the only real way to do it is to talk to a bank. So the bank lends him some money, and the bank gets its money from savers on the right. But as soon as he gets lent that money and he starts his mortgage, Tim is locked out of the money that's stored in his house. He cannot get to any of the equity. He cannot get to any of the profits that come from his property as it goes up in value. He can't do anything until the mortgage ends in 25 years. And similarly, even though he's paying lots of money to the bank, the savers on the right here get not a lot bang for their buck back. Okay, so let's fast forward. Here's 25 years later. Tim's got a £2 million house. He would like some of that cash, which is rightfully his. And the way he sees it, there is only 2 ways to get to that money. The first way to do it is to downsize. So he buys a smaller property, he gets some cash, and he lives in a smaller property. Great. The other way is to go right back to the other way of doing things, which is go to the bank. You're locked into that kind of cycle again. He still gets the same money, but he's locked into that debt and equity cycle. So HiP does things differently. We sit in the middle, and we are a way of banks and savers and investors to get to properties. We look at properties differently. We say it's okay to get at the equity in your property, and we say it's okay to play with the levels of debt and equity in your property. So instead of just a bank, you've got banks and investors lending you money, buying equity off you to fund your property. And over time, instead of paying the bank, you pay the bank and those savers back. Okay? So it's fractional ownership of property. And it's a new level of doing things and a way that is really, really flexible. So, we fast forwarded here 25 years. It doesn't have to be 25 years. Tim, on the left here, on the right, sorry, can buy back and sell equity at any point that he wants. So it's that flexibility that's really, really important. And what we're doing is we are building a network of investors. And those investors could be people like me who have equity in their property. And we are effectively building a new capital market, a new secondary market too, and we are creating what we call an ecosystem of wealth based on the equity that's in property, and it's playing with debt and equity in an interactive way so that people can share in the wealth that is really legally theirs, and right now they have got no access or way of doing it. Okay, I'm just going to show you a really early prototype of the app. We've got a 3D world that we made. You go in, you find your property, you see what it's worth today, you have a look at some of the market data, you put in what you can afford to pay, and you put in your current mortgage, and this effectively, this is a really old version, I've got a very snazzy new product version upstairs that we can show you and take you through. This is how we see property. So, you've got equity, you've got debt, which is equivalent to your mortgage right now, and then you've got this other thing called third-party equity. And what that means is that, let's say I want to take some money out and I need it for cash to do with whatever I want. Effectively, I can do that in 2 ways. The first way is to increase my payments, my monthly payments, to match that debt. The second way to do it is to release some of that equity out onto the platform, and third-party people, investors, banks, individual property owners, et cetera, can effectively take an anonymized slice of that property. So it's fractional ownership, and we think it's very, very cool. So do the FCA, who have given us our license. It's a unique license. And just this method of doing things releases a whole series of possibilities. For example, if you are a first-time buyer and you are in London, you are pretty much screwed. You cannot afford your deposit, you cannot afford the house because it's a ridiculous price. And HiP comes along and says, okay, well, what if you only need to own half the house, and the other half of your house is third-party investors who one day you will pay back, but for now, you own the property, you get to live in it, but the other people have the financial benefits of your property. And if you're a landlord, maybe, with 10 properties, and you need to fix the roof in one of them, you can take out a slice of equity from those properties to pay for it. To go back to my situation, I've got clever daughters who keep going off to university. I would love to have a payment break from my mortgage. I can't do that with my current mortgage. With HiP, if I don't want to pay my monthly mortgage, we'll take a slice out of your equity to match that payment. And that, in a nutshell, is HiP. HiP Interactive Property. The interactive bit is the debt and equity. We think it's really, really cool. We are in private round at the moment, which is just about closing out. Pre-ICO, not quite sure. It depends out on how the private round goes, but probably end of this month, maybe mid next month. Okay? So if you've understood any of this, you will have shed loads of questions. So we're going to be upstairs answering questions. So please come and talk to us, and we will explain more. Okay?